Hey guys, welcome back. And me, Jay. This is my 35th installment of my Road to WrestleMania series, where I review each and every WrestleMania from 1 to 41. And we are now at WrestleMania 35. That comes to you from East Rutherford, New Jersey, on April the 7th, 2019. And pointing out, this is the second WrestleMania held at the MetLife Stadium, and this is the fourth WrestleMania held in the New York metropolitan area, the tri-state area. It's billed as a New York WrestleMania, even though it's technically taking place in Jersey, because it's where the Jets play, right? And I wasn't there. You know what I mean? Like this is the only WrestleMania that was in my area that I did not go to, but I watched it on TV from the comfort of my home and then on the WWE network um, for $9.99. So I got a better deal. Right? I didn't have to be there. What main events do we have offered? We have, well, the Royal Rumble winners. For the men's Royal Rumble, we have Seth Rollins in his burn it down phase, and he'll be challenging Brock Lesnar. And for the women's Royal Rumble, we have Becky Lynch, who has so the Rollins family was the successful family this year. Becky Lynch and her husband Seth Rollins both won the Royal Rumble, the men's and the women's, respectfully. So what are the matches? The pre-show matches all pretty much sucked. Colin Jost of Saturday Night Live fame, won. I mean, was in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and was eliminated by Braun Strowman. But we get into the start of the show. Alexa Bliss, the host, comes out. Hulk Hogan then comes out. But after that, right away, Seth Rollins defeats Brock Lesnar and makes easy work of poor Brock at clocking in at 2 minutes and 30 seconds for the Universal Championship. AJ Styles defeats Randy Orton by pinfall. Pretty good match, decent. A clusterfuck of a fatal four-way tag team match with the Usos retaining their championship against Aleister Black, Ricochet, Rusev, Shinsuke Nakamura, and The Bar. And then you had a Falls Count Anywhere match between Shane McMahon and The Miz. Now, this one, The Miz's dad interfered, and it involved The Miz's dad. And I was like, what the fuck? Was that? jumping in to defend his son against Shane McMahon and getting injured. Miz's dad, you should have stayed out of this match. Another fatal four-way women's match: the Iconics, Boston Hug, which is Bailey and Sasha, Nia Jackson, Tamina, Beth Phoenix, and Natalia. The Iconics win, and this was when Sasha Banks, yeah, this is when David said, "Remember when Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte all got arrested in the lead up to this match?" Yeah, um, that was crazy. Um, After they lost this match to the Iconics, Bailey and Sasha Banks and Bailey threw a daggone temper tantrum and in the back and threw themselves on the floor, acting unprofessional, and threatened to walk out of the company. And this became a pattern with Sasha Banks that she would repeat in years to come as well. Now AEW has to deal with her BS. Uh, Kofi Kingston with Xavier Woods defeats Daniel Bryan. Now this is an interesting story. Kofi Kingston was not slated in this match, but due to Mustafa Ali getting injured at Elimination Chamber and the impressive performance that Kofi Kingston gave, a lot of the fans were behind Kofi Kingston, and they wanted Kofi Kingston to be successful. It became like a grassroots campaign to have Kofi Kingston main event WrestleMania, because once again, it was pointed out that discounting The Rock, who is more Samoan than African American because he acknowledges more of his Samoan heritage, at least in WWE, there had never been a black champion in WWE history. So a lot of fans were like, okay, it's time for Kofi. Kofi, had been with the company now for 10 years. We recall that incident where he fucked up that spot with Randy Orton in 2009, and, the stupid Randy Orton just yelling at him. Like, fans were truly behind Kofi Kingston at this year's WrestleMania. But in a kind of irony, Daniel Bryan had just turned heel. And Daniel Bryan, yeah, he didn't. David says Kofi Kingston should have won the WWE title inside Elimination Chamber. He didn't. But because he didn't, people were like, okay, it's time for him to main event, go to WrestleMania and do it at WrestleMania. So this, just like 2014 in WrestleMania with Daniel Bryan, the fans were the ones that wanted Kofi. They pushed for Kofi and they pushed for Kofi. It sucked for Mustafa Ali, but they pushed for Kofi, wanting him to achieve the ultimate, something that no black superstar had ever achieved. So, but Daniel Bryan had just turned heel, and Daniel Bryan was walking around with the hemp title, a title made of hemp. And he was going around saying that the fans were fickle. And he said to Kofi Kingston what they said to him. He said that Kofi Kingston was not championship material, that he was a B-plus player. So this rallied the fans behind Kofi. They really wanted to see Kofi get it done, and he did. Kofi Mania was successful. The image of his children coming out and him in New Day celebrating was a moment that I will never forget. Unfortunately, it didn't last long because as soon as WWE moved to SmackDown, moved to Fox, Vince had to shoo Brock back in, and Brock beating him, making short work of Kofi's reign. You know, I mean, Brock Lesnar has beaten every black WWE champion there ever was, including The Rock. Samoa Joe defeats Rey Mysterio by technical submission for the U.S. Championship. I don't know where I was with this. I don't remember this. Roman Reigns defeats Drew McIntyre. Now, this was very emotional because in late 2018, Roman Reigns got on Raw and as himself, not as the character of Roman Reigns. He was the Universal Champion at the time. And as the character of as himself, Joe Anoa'i admitted to the people that he had been struggling since he was very young with leukemia. And honestly, that was one of the most emotional moments in my life as a fan because that's when it got real. I mean, there have been a few. The death of Owen Hart, the Chris Benoit. Davis says Brock is done with WWE. Yeah, the death of Owen Hart, the Chris Benoit tragedy, the Eddie Guerrero's death, Ultimate Warrior's passing. We've talked about a lot of them, here on this review series. But this one was like, here's a guy that we hate as smart fans, smart marks. We hate and we despise because he has shitty matches and, they push him down our throats. But he's a human being with a family. And for him to have leukemia and come out and admit that and have a real candid moment with the fans was something really touching. Unfortunately, WWE didn't think so because on that same Raw, they turned Dean Ambrose heel. But, and you had disgusting people online back then that were saying, oh, this is a work. No, this was no work. This was not part of a storyline. The real person, Joe Anoa'i, that plays Roman Reigns, really was sick. Just like when it wasn't a work in 2012 when Jerry the King Lawler had his heart attack, or it wasn't a work when Owen Hart died, or it wasn't a work when the Chris Benoit tragedy happened. There are certain moments during our fandom in professional wrestling when it is real. It's fun in games. We laugh, we joke about the stupid things that WWE does, and they did a lot of stupid things in this pay-per-view itself. But the moments like Edge's retirement, Daniel Bryan's retirement, Roman's announcement, those are the real moments that I cherish as a WWE fan. So it was good to see Roman coming back and winning against Drew McIntyre. Batista making his return. First time talking about him since WrestleMania 30. And he, he did pretty good. He wanted to have his last match with Triple H, relive their classic from WrestleMania 21. And he actually beat up Ric Flair, which is what I remember, his pummeling of Flair from this angle. And it was a pretty good match, Batista and Hunter. Baron Corbin, speaking of retirements, Baron Corbin defeats Kurt Angle. This was actually Kurt Angle's last match in WWE to date. And he puts over Baron Corbin, like a completely wasted retirement. I don't know if they forced him to do it. I don't know if it was his choice. I don't really listen to his podcast, to be honest with you, to really know, if he ever talked about this. But it seems like a waste to me putting over Baron Corbin. But hey, they were behind Baron Corbin. The Demon, Finn Balor, defeated Bobby Lashley. Now, when Bobby Lashley came back, the Raw after WrestleMania 34, after being in TNA and being a heel in TNA, I'm like, well, then just turn him heel. Like that he works better that way than as a babyface. They saw him as a babyface. They saw him the same way they saw him 10 years before that in 2007 when he had Trump in his corner. No, the right way to do it was to turn the guy heel. And they eventually figured that out. That's when in 20 and 21, when we get to it, that's when he has his amazing run with the Hurt Business. He's a better heel, a way better heel than a babyface. But here, he has Leo Rush in his corner. And finally, Becky Lynch defeats Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair. This main event made history because it's the first time women main event in WrestleMania, and it was warranted. But why Charlotte Flair? She didn't deserve to be in this match. The storyline was that Becky Lynch got her nose broken by Nia Jax. That was the whole storyline. And then the fans started to get behind her as the man. And her beef was with Ronda, dating back to Survivor Series 2018. I felt like Charlotte took away from this, in my opinion. Charlotte didn't need to be in this match, in my opinion. It took away from the match rather than add to it. But we did have that moment of Becky two belts, of Becky Lynch holding up both championships, the SmackDown and Raw championship, and making history because Becky Lynch's journey was a long, arduous journey. But the story, to me, was with Ronda. She had missed the match with Ronda at Survivor Series, not Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair didn't need to be in here, but they put her in here anyway, I guess. At the last minute, they shoot her ass in. I was upset with that. I made a video that very night when she beat Asuka for the championship. But one thing that was weird about this with the pinfall of Ronda was that it looked like she had kicked out like at the last minute. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, they're leaving the door open for her to come back, right? But then we find out in her book that she only did it because her mom would be upset if she took the clean loss. So Uh, that was her stupid reason for looking like both shoulders were not on the mat. Either that, I thought one of two things. I thought either she doesn't know how to work and she don't know how to really take a real pinfall, or she fucking is leaving the door open for a rematch. She's coming back. But what did she do after WrestleMania? After these girls bust their ass, literally in Alexa Bliss's case, to put her over for an entire year, right? And they start, promoting the women heavily, even though 2018 was a weird year because Ronda was there and they were promoting the women heavily, but at the same time, they were making deals with Saudi Arabia. They had their first deals with Saudi Arabia, the greatest Royal Rumble, and then the Crown Jewel shows. Despite the fact that Saudi Arabia was because MBS Mohammed bin Salman had just took over as the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. So and he had this Vision 2030 plan to diversify the Saudi economy. So he wanted to have sports as part of it. So WWE signed this multi-year deal with Saudi Arabia, but and the first one they had was the greatest Royal Rumble that Braun Strowman won this monstrosity, this ugly monstrosity of a green championship, and Shane McMahon won the WWE World Cup, right? And it's like, but the problem is they're pushing the women at home. They're shoving the women down our throats, talking about female empowerment, the women's revolution. They're having an exclusively all women's pay-per-view. But at the same time, they're doing business with Saudi Arabia, a country that actively discriminates against women. You know what I mean? It's the equivalent of, say it was the 1950s or 60s, and you had a wrestling promotion that was pushing a lot of black talent. But at the same time, they didn't mind holding their version of WrestleMania in Mississippi, a state that discriminates against people of color. How would that look? What are the optics? The women weren't even allowed to go to the Saudi Arabia shows for the first few ones. And on top of that, Saudi Arabia and their regime was embroiled in tremendous controversy after the death of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Like, this was an international incident. This journalist who was speaking against the Saudi regime was murdered in the Turkish consulate. So WWE was receiving a lot of bad press with this, and a lot of people looked at them as hypocrites. Like, you're forcing women's wrestling down our throats, but at the same time, you're not saying that to the Saudis. You're perfectly fine with excluding the women when it comes to doing the shows in Saudi Arabia. So they were sending mixed messages. But hey, WWE and Vince McMahon didn't care. They were getting the fucking good Saudi money. So this whole year of 2018, people were pushing Ronda, putting Ronda over. My point was saying all that Ronda, after WrestleMania 35, after everybody she's like another Brock Lesnar. That's why her and Brock would have been the perfect tag team, because she fucking goes on podcast and says, "Oh, I had fun doing fake wrestling. Dissing the fans. You basement dwellers, you geeks, don't you know that wrestling is fake?" So like, we support you. David says Brock's not the greatest Universal Champion of all time. I agree, he's not. We support you. We put our hard-earned dollars behind you, Ronda, and you spin our faces. Like, that's what you get. That's what we get for supporting you. That's the thanks we get. It was disrespectful. You know what I mean? And you can't say it was even for a heel turn, because she never, she does come back. But I'm saying at that time, she didn't look like she was going to come back. So why are you saying this, Ron? Ronda pissed a lot of people off with her comments. You know what I mean? And Brock did the same thing. Brock did the same thing when he left. It was just like what I said in '04. People worked hard. The guys worked hard to put Brock Lesnar over only to have him disrespect the business. And the women worked hard to put Ronda over only to have her disrespect the business just because they were MMA fighters and NCAA champions, or in Ronda's case, an Olympic judo player. It was bullshit. It was total bullshit. But that's my review for WrestleMania 35. Overall, it was a half and half show. These years, WWE from 2016 to 2020, the Roman Reigns babyface years, or like David is saying, the Brock Lesnar Universal Championship years, were bad years. I mean, the Becky Lynch storyline of her getting injured, her face, being busted open. The promo, Ronda was never good with promos, but the one promo that Ronda did do with her and Becky Lynch on Raw, when she said, what were you doing, Becky, at WrestleMania 34? You were on the pre-show. I stole the show at my debut. And she said, I'll rearrange your face worse than Nia Jax. But she had her moments as a heel. I can't lie. That's what I'm saying. She's a natural heel. She should have been a heel from day one. Her and Brock Lesnar would have made the ultimate stable managed by Paul Heyman. Two MMA fighters who think that they're above professional wrestling, who look down on the fans and performers of wrestling. I don't know. WWE missed an opportunity with that. But the story with Becky Lynch was great, man. Her getting busted open by Nia Jax, and then Ronda getting booed out of the building at Survivor Series 2018. Fans quickly turned on Ronda Rousey, man. When we had WrestleMania 34, we're singing our praises. We said it was a great performance, and if it had just ended there, it'd have been fine. But it didn't. Thank God, no musical performance at this one. Only Elias. We got to walk with Elias at this one. And 2019, Jeff Jarrett returned to the WWE. Look at that. Jeff Jarrett, Jeff, JARRETT, somebody we thought we'd never, ever see back in the WWE. But he came back. He came back. It wouldn't be for long, but he did come back. So that's WrestleMania 35. We move on to WrestleMania 36. Boy, oh boy, from from Tampa, Florida. Well, no, Orlando, right? It's a convoluted one. We'll talk about it. It involves a cosmic shift of real-life world events. It was supposed to take place in Tampa, but ended up taking place in Orlando. For reasons that we will discuss. Reasons that I know nobody watching this video can ever forget, and that is the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic and how it impacted WrestleMania 36. Peace, guys. Thank you, David, for contributing. Thank you guys for watching. On to the next one, WrestleMania 36. COVID Mania. When this was Kofi Mania, the next one is COVID Mania.